Today, we have a very special guest on the New Mid that I am very excited to introduce you all to. Her name is Kerry Hannon. She is an author and expert on career transitions, entrepreneurship, personal finance, and retirement. Her new book out, Great Pajama Jobs, Your Complete Guide to Working from Home, is all about guiding women, especially in midlife, to find careers they can do from home. By coincidence, she started working on the book last year. And with the pandemic, we all find ourselves at home. So I can't think of a better topic, more timely and relevant. With that, please welcome Kerry Hannon. Thank you for being here, Kerry.
Oh, Michelle, I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Well, as I mentioned, your book, your latest book, Great Pajama Jobs, Your Complete Guide to Working from Home, just it's amazing your timing. How did you come up with the concept for the book?
No, I just couldn't believe the timing myself. I actually, I signed the contract for this book a year ago in 2019, the summer of 2019, because I saw it as a global movement. I saw that an increasing number of employees were letting their employees work from home, work remotely, wherever they were, whenever almost. But there was this idea that they were catching on, and it wasn't just older workers or mid-career, it was younger workers who were saying, hey, we want this benefit. We want that flexibility. They're sort of digital nomads. And so they understood that they could work from anywhere. And so I saw this happening, and increasingly, I was making the connection of how this really, in a sense, opens up the work world for many, many people. And so I had started on that path, and I was a couple of weeks away from filing my manuscript. And I said, when everyone was sent home. So
Oh
it's
my
like,
gosh, the
I'm like,
timing.
so I said, okay, to my publisher, John Wiley and Sons, I said, could I have just a little extra time? Because we're going to look really stupid if we don't get back into this topic. And so I was really happy I was able to.
Well, did actually, that's interesting that you said you got a little more time. Did it change your outlook for the book? Did it change much?
It didn't change. What I was able to do, Michelle, is get the latest figures, to get some more companies that were starting to catch on, that this was cool to do, that this wasn't a stretch to have people working from home. And so I was able to get a sense of looking forward into a larger movement, the genie's out of the bottle now. This isn't going back to the way it was ever. So remote work is here to stay. And I was able to convey that in the book in a way that before it was like, oh, we're inching towards this. Isn't this nice? To, hey, guess what? It's here.
Well, that's interesting because you're right. More companies, I think, are open to it now because of COVID and working more full time remotely. What areas do you think are the best place for jobs to look for remote working?
I got to be honest with you. In the book, I have it divided into three parts. And one is, great jobs, and then great employers. And then my workshop of how to go about getting one of these jobs or being successful at it. The part about what kinds of jobs, it is amazing how many jobs can truly be done remotely, that many people never thought about. But if you just go straight out of the box, you can say, yeah, these are knowledge-based jobs, right? We're not talking uh, customer service facing in the way that in the service industry or hospitality. Some of those are a little more difficult unless it's customer service in the sense of being reservations or helping people with navigating technology or things or customer questions for online shopping. So there's, it does segment the kind of workers we're looking at here for these remote jobs. But yes, healthcare, education, tech jobs. These are some areas, and even financial ones, bookkeeping, accounting, all those sorts of things that can easily be done from your computer at home, a remote location.
Oh, that's great. Well, what would you suggest? What would be your top tips to find the ideal work from home jobs?
This is what I would do. Honestly, anytime we're job hunting, you've got to think about, where do you want to work?
Mhm.
What companies do you admire? Does their mission appeal to you? Do really think about that? Because this is your time to really be very, careful about your selection, because you don't want to helter skelter start applying to jobs. Truly, that's not the answer. If you can narrow down to 5 or 6 companies that you'd love to work at, And then you go to their job boards. There's some great remote job boards to look at from, I love Flex Jobs. There's work from home, vintage employees or experts. And there's so many good ones out there, working nomads. You can find them in the book, but there's some great sites that you can look at who's posting jobs. But if you look at the jobs, you're not going to technically get a job from the job board, right? That gives you an idea of
Right.
who's hiring. Look at the company website. What jobs do they have open? How do they match my skills? And then finally, who do you know at that company? Hiring is the same as it's always been. Companies hire people they know or people they know. It is, it all comes down to, how do you have a connection to that company? That gets you in the door for the interview. You still have to do the hard work, of course, of landing that job. But if you're on LinkedIn, you can easily find out, who do I know that works at that company that I can send a note to and say, hey, can you make an introduction for me? Or at least find out more about what they're looking for.
Oh, I love that. It's so true. It is all connections. That's why I love LinkedIn too.
I think LinkedIn is amazing because you can make those connections. You can find, there's lots of great job postings there as well. And of course, if you find the companies you want to work for, you want to follow them on LinkedIn. If they're on LinkedIn, follow them on Twitter or Facebook, whatever. So you can gather as much information about the culture of that company as you can before embark on that path to really go after that job, to win that job.
Well, we're in midlife now, so there a lot of things have happened since we've started working, like Slack. There's a lot of technology. What other type of skills would you say we should brush up on or know, entering into sort of the remote work from home?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the really the simplest answer is, it comes down to technology. So, and some of us have kind of let that slide a little bit, but it's not hard. I mean, like you mentioned, Slack or Zoom, we're doing this stuff. Maybe not Slack if you're not employed with a company right now so much, but we're Zooming, we're all kinds of different apps and stuff, more FaceTime, or maybe it's Skype, but there's lots of more sophisticated ones out there. And if you find there's a job that you're looking for and it says in that job description you need to have that skill, by all means go and get it. And it's quite easy to, most of the apps have tutorials on their sites. LinkedIn has some great LinkedIn learning opportunities to get up to speed. YouTube videos are wonderful to watch to help you. So there's lots of ways to get free sprucing up those tech skills for free. And make sure that you do it. And it takes practice, repetition. So I encourage that. But your number one thing is the tech skill. Number two is communication is the key to success as a remote worker. So you need to be, if you're an introvert and you're kind of, get over it. It's true, remote, not everyone's hardwired for remote work, but this is where we are today. So you need to find a way to make it work for you. But communication and staying in touch with whoever you're working for, whether it's a contract job or a full-time job, your teammates, your supervisor, your boss, it all comes down to communication, it's got to be the way, virtually, it's got to be emails, phone calls are not old fashioned. Pick up the darn phone, and, whenever you can, and depending on the world, try to get out and see people face to face with your mask.
Well, to apply for a job for remote working, do you have to have something particular on your resume? Do you need to tweak your resume at all?
What? I think it's kind of fun to, employers may be looking at least before, they were looking to see if people had had experience working from remote locations, because that kind of showed that you were a grown up and, oh my gosh, you can get your work done on time and you have discipline, and it kind of shows that you understand the drill. But today we've all been working from home. So it's pretty obvious that you should, if you've been doing any kind of work in the last several months, chunk of this year anyway, you have experience remote working. So tag that into any of you, whatever you're putting in your job description, if it's something. And again, this is important. If you've been out of work and you have a gap, whether you've been home raising kids or whether you've been downsized and you had a layoff for a couple of months, always make sure that if it's a volunteer skill that you had, if you're doing project management, if you're doing fundraising, those are marketing kind of, fundraising is a marketing job. It's a sales job actually. So put that in that kind of business language, but also slip in the word, virtual, salesmanship or remote work, whatever it is, slip in the word just so that it's there. It's subliminal, but it's there.
That makes sense. That's great. Well, you know what's interesting about it shifting to working from home? Has this kind of mitigated ageism a little bit, do you think?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. I am a huge believer in remote work combating ageism. I think it's a great way to combat ageism because you are being judged by your performance and your productivity and not by your cover, right? Everyone judges a book by its cover, and that's okay. We all look fabulous. But, when you're standing there with a 20 something colleague, there's this sort of, it can present sort of a picture that makes a hiring manager or a boss or whatever just think that there is age issues there. But if you can show somebody how great you are by this format, I think it does go a long way. It also enables people who may have, as we age, mobility issues. So commuting can become a little difficult, or various things, the lighting in an office or the sound if a place is too noisy, all kinds of little things that kind of, or you don't like, if we talked about commuting, if you get back to doing that, driving at night because your night eye vision isn't so good. This is a great solution because, my goodness, you can control your environment and you can have an ergonomic desk and chair and all those good things so that it makes it more seamless and safer for your work.
Well, I think you're right though about a lot of this being here to stay. I think working from home is definitely, I love that, like you're saying, we're older, so maybe we have mobility problems. We don't want to commute as much. I love all of that. Now, what I'm wondering though is when you finally get that work from home job, how do you not make it? How do you set boundaries and not make it a 24/7 job?
Yeah, that you're that is the hard part, and that is truly the hard part because that and it's a real. I mean, burnout is true, and not only that, the anxiety that it can create if you have kids at home or your partner or your spouse is also working in your space, and you got school going, I don't whatever it is. And you're working off an ironing board, which hopefully you're not, but you could be. I mean, with your laptop on top because you're looking for a surface. Um, and so it's easy to get caught up in not drawing the proper boundaries. So you need to draw those boundaries not only with your family or whoever is surrounding you in your workspace at home, but with your employer, and be really clear. Have that conversation. You're there to do the job for them, so it's whatever's going to work best for them, but you just want to be on board so everyone realizes these are the standard working hours. And yeah, if there's a big project overtime, I'm here, I'm ready for it, but let's plan on, we kick off at this time during the day. We're going to check in for communication points, maybe a quick, here's what I'm up to. You always want to keep, if you're remote working, someone you're working for apprised of, what productivity, what you've done that day, what's going on, or if you have any questions, don't let things slip away. You need to keep that line of communication, but drawing that boundary is important. And also, it's self-care. It's drawing that boundary with yourself to say, hey, I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to back off. I'm going to go get lunch. Oh my gosh, because it's easy to forget to eat. I'm serious. When you're involved in a project and you don't have a coworker tapping you on your shoulder, let's go walk around the corner and get something. You kind of forget. So, be good to yourself and step away, and don't look at your computer. Listen to some music. Call your mom. Whatever it might be. Just give yourself those breaks during the day, and even if you have to write them into your schedule. I'm stopping right here every 2 hours to kind of step away, whatever it works for you. We all have a different rhythm.
That is so true. We do have a different rhythm, and you're right. It is so easy to forget to eat.
I know it sounds silly, but it happens.
I know. Well, it's so interesting too about these remote working from home jobs. What kind of salary can you expect from that? Is it similar to what we're used to by going into the office, or have the salaries changed?
Well, here's a concern. Actually, it is a concern for me. I don't see why they should be any different. And technically they aren't. But we are increasingly, as long as the remote working world continues to um, expand the amount of time before companies are going to really bring their employees back. We're already into mid 2021 at this point for many companies, if not longer. So I'm hearing, and I'm sure you are, that big companies are saying, hey, yeah, we want to hire you, but since you're not going to be working in Los Angeles and you're going to be working in Virginia, remote Virginia, or wherever it might be, you don't need to pay, we don't need to pay you as much. And that really burns me. but it's true. They figure they can give you, they can pay less because you're in a lower cost area. And I don't see that idea going away, because it makes remote working and hiring remote workers a win for employees in many ways, because it's a budget issue for them. If they can get you to work for less, and still get the same great work out of you, well, why not? So I think that trend is going to continue. So as always, and especially for women, we have to fight for our salaries every step of the way and be firm, be willing to accept what you're going to be comfortable with, truly, because that is a movement. The other thing that concerns me, Michelle, is that a lot of these remote jobs are contract positions.
Mm.
And I think as employers get more comfortable with remote work, they go, aha, we maybe don't need to have somebody full-time on staff with all the benefits. We can get remote workers to do these projects contract wise, or maybe it's more than one project or whatever it is, but they can get away from paying the full benefits of somebody who's on full staff, full time. And I see that a lot in the remote job postings. They say part-time, they say contract, seasonal. So just be aware of that. And again, I see as companies get lean and mean, kind of get through the pandemic, that it's already happened for younger workers, right? A lot of younger workers have had to deal with contract jobs for a long time. Jobs with no retirement benefits is really frustrating. So I could get on my soapbox about all that, but I think we're going to see more of that. So
Well, I wouldn't, if you don't mind getting on your soapbox for just a little bit longer, I would love to, because in midlife, we were talking about this. I have younger kids and I have older parents, and a lot of us in the Gen X generation do have that. So here we are in our 50s, we need to work for, 15, 20 more years. So what kind of a job with the market changing? Um, what kind of a job, what should we think about when we're looking for something more that has more longevity to it?
I I truly believe that the core skill set that you can present to an employer are going to be key. And we mentioned that communication skills, whether you're strong writing skills, verbal skills, presentation skills, being able to stand up and give presentations, whether it's on the computer or in person, but being comfortable in your own skin and having these sort of seamless ways of communicating, being able to demonstrate how disciplined you are with your work and how great you are with time management. These are a combination of skills that aren't hard sets, but they're very important to jobs. You also, and I, at this age range, moving from midlife forward, guess what? It's not going to be the linear career you had initially. The world has changed. This segment of your life, and is going to be a bit of a patchwork quilt. So you need to be nimble and have skills that you can shift from one field to another. I call it redeploying your skills, because you can switch from one industry to another, maybe entertainment to publishing, or whatever it might be, because you can drag those skills right along with you for what you've done. And you'll find the common spine easily enough. So it's thinking big, giving yourself a bigger playing field, because so many of us get locked in trying to recreate a job we had in the past. And that's not it. That's not it. Give yourself opportunities to have choices, and that means broadening your horizon.
Well, what I love, one of the things I loved about your book, if we get back to the book, Great Pajamas, Great Pajama Jobs, you talk a lot about, I love the title, by the way. You talk a lot about being open to new ways of doing things and having a bigger tolerance for risk And one of the things you mentioned are best places to work remotely. Can you talk a little bit about those types of opportunities?
You mean some of the foreign countries?
Yes, yes, I found
Yeah.
that was fascinating. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, the beauty of being able to work remotely is that you can work wherever and, presumably whenever you want to, although that's a little harder to get. But the wherever piece, I mean, there are many countries that are welcoming, and today, right now, we got to get through this pandemic. But so let's put our long lens on. But moving forward, there's some wonderful places where the cost of living is cheaper. And why not go live somewhere where the cost of living is cheaper? That's beautiful, like has beaches or mountains. And in the book, I have a list of ones that you might go, really, Kerry? Never really thought that I wanted to go there. And maybe those specific places, a group called International Living helped put that list together for me of great places. They, has great Wi-Fi, has great, expat community, all those good things. And so you'll find the list in the book. But I do think anywhere really. You can find lots of places where it's more affordable. That it's there's something to be said for the quality of life you get from living in a beautiful place, and you can't put a price tag on that, in my opinion.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's a rainy day for us. So the thought of being on a hot beach today is a lovely idea. But, Carrie, this has been so informative and so wonderful to be able to talk to you about finding remote jobs for midlife. Is there anything else that you would like to leave us with? Any knowledge, that tips that you would like to give us, midlife women, as we are sort of redefining our lives, our careers, and heading out into, this big new evolving workspace that
Right.
we're
No,
in?
it's true. A couple of things. Don't be afraid of the contract job thing just because I was dismissing it in a way. This is a great way to get back in the picture again. These are terrific. You're building your resume back up again. You're making connections, you're networking. If you can't, if you are hitting roadblocks with finding jobs, go volunteer. Get out there, get out of your head, get into your, often people say into your heart. I say get into the world, whatever it is, get out there. You never know who you're going to meet. And today we can do virtual volunteering. You're still meeting new people, but whatever it is, you want to constantly, and you can put that on your resume. So don't just sit and send out resumes. Be proactive. Those contract jobs are just fine for getting your foot wet and getting in the door. You might look for companies that do internships. That's always a great way to get in the door. Really, really important. We touched on this earlier. Networking is one letter away from not working. So for gosh sakes, go out. Who do you know? Tell everyone you're looking for work. Don't be embarrassed. There's nothing to be ashamed about. It's great. Just who do they, because you don't need them to give you a job. You want them to introduce you to somebody else and somebody else, and it rolls forward. So all of those connections are magic. And don't wait. You're not wasting anyone's time by going for an informational interview, whether it's just on the computer. Set the time and meet somebody. You're not asking them to hire you. You want to know about their job. You want to know any advice of who else you should talk to. It helps you get lots of information about what's going to work for you. And remember, in those conversations, it's not about you. It's not about selling you. It's about listening to them. And I put a picture when I do slideshows of my dog looking adoringly at me. That's how you should be looking at the person who's talking to you, because people all want to be listened to. They want you to be hanging on their every word, and they're going to hang up and go, gosh, she's really interesting. And it's really because you were interested. So much better to be interested at this stage of the job hunting, because that will really help you build a really strong network. That's going to get you your job.
Oh, this is amazing. Carrie, so much good advice. Thank you so much for being on the new mid.
Thank you. Thank you. That was fun.